Hey everyone, it's Jeremy Osterberger with BIC Magazine, and thank you so much for joining us at the ECC Annual PerspECCtives Conference in National Harbor, Maryland. And I'm joined by Brandon Mabile, who's Business Development Director for Performance Contractors and Secretary of the National Board of Directors for ABC. So Brandon, thanks so much for hanging out.
Jeremy, thanks for having me, man. You know I always love coming to talk to you.
Yeah, you're up there on some of the most interviewed of BIC Magazine. So thank you, Brandon, for joining us again. And that's because we always appreciate your insights, Brandon. So look, I want to dig into the ECC. I want to get into what ABC's been up to, legislative priorities. But first, let's hear about performance. You guys have been doing a lot. Tell us about performance and maybe some of your current endeavors, maybe some current projects you guys got going on.
You know, Jeremy, performance is, we're growing. I mean, it's been really great. I'm actually, as we're recording this, I'm about 2 weeks away from my 19th anniversary with the company, and to see what's gone on in 19 years is really incredible. You know, we've gone into some new markets now. We're getting really heavy in the LNG space. We've done some semiconductor manufacturing type work, mission critical type work, and so looking into other alternatives, but still remaining true to our core business, which is chemicals, petrochemicals, oil refining, you know, and power generation, which has always kind of been our bread and butter and is going to continue to be. As we're speaking, I think we're doing work in 17 states right now, and so, you know, it's really been really great to see. And also our modularization business has really started booming, and domestic modules have gotten more competitive than they've ever been with overseas modules, and that's allowed us a whole new avenue and a way to take production off of a job site, put it in a more controlled environment. And we actually last year shipped the largest onshore domestic modules that we're aware of ever being built in the United States.
Wow, Brandon, thank you for that. So Brandon, you mentioned some of your advanced technology, and I think you said data center work. Did your history of the company parlay itself well into that? What was that like getting into that sort of business?
You know, Jeremy, we were looking at what are kind of adjacent industries where, at the end of the day, we're a mechanical, structural, civil company. We also do soft crafts, we do some E&I, and so it was what fits with that? You know, what else is out there? And those were kind of natural steps. There's a lot of piping, there's a lot of civil, there's a lot of structural steel. Now, we're not going to do every part of those things. We're not building the actual building. We're not getting into the commercial architectural building kind of space. But, you know, it was kind of a no-brainer to step into LNG, to step into the semiconductors and mission critical, pharmaceutical, agricultural, and even to the data centers. You look at those projects, and a lot of piping, a lot of steel, a lot of concrete. We've been doing that for 45 years.
You know, Brandon, to do all that work, you got to have great skilled labor. Are y'all still seeing challenges at Performance? And then also want to let you speak more broadly. Just, you know, you represent kind of the industrial contractor community with your role at ABC.
Yeah, Jerry, you know, unfortunately, we've been talking about this skilled labor shortage for the 19 years I've been at Performance, and honestly, it was going on before I ever got into the industry. And the sad reality is it's still an issue. But some of the things we're doing at Performance is we are doing a lot on recruiting, on training, on retention. We're working with dozens of high schools, we're working with community colleges, we're working with four-year universities to bring these career paths. We have a full-time military recruiter on site, on staff, working with military bases and transition assistance programs, and actually for the last 5 years, we've been on the Military Times Best for Vets Employers list, and we're the only construction company in the U.S. on that list. So that's something we're very proud of, and that's been a huge help for us in getting skilled labor and getting them trained up and ready to go to work.
Here, Brandon, at the ECC PerspECCtives Conference, we're seeing a lot of discussions on AI, still fighting the digitalization transition. Talk a little bit about that. How is Performance Contractors leveraging technology? You mentioned modularization earlier, but what about digital workflows, any machine learning, AI? A lot of times those terms can mean different things to different companies.
You know, we've really tried to leverage technology where we see an impact. You know, we're a long way from robotic welders and robotic pipe fitters, right? But what we've seen is that by utilizing technology and putting it in the hands of the foreman, we get the foreman in the field more than they've been in years. And so we actually, one of our foremen created an app, Performance True, and he's on, I think we're on version 8.02, somewhere around there right now. But this was built by a foreman for foreman. It's all of their tracking, we can update models, we can do time, and so the foreman is in the field. They pull out an iPad, they update what they need to update, they can get drawings, they can look at the 3D model, and so they don't have to go to a plant shack, they don't have to go into an office trailer, and so now that foreman's in the field 90+% of his day and really directing work and driving safety and driving productivity where the foreman needs to be. We're using drones for things like surveys and where we're really seeing some cool technology also is from our engineering partners and the things that they're doing with digital twins. And then we can come in and it really helps with that advanced work packaging and pre-planning and kind of using that technology to drive project efficiency before the project ever starts.
That's awesome, Brandon. Thanks for that insight. Performance true. There we go. So what trends are you seeing in the industrial construction sector right now, Brandon?
So it's the chemicals market is down. I'm sure here at ECC you've talked to several of the big chemical owners and they're telling you the same thing. That market is down, and I don't have the crystal ball to tell you when that's going to change with the regulatory environment we're in, where today there's a 50% tariff and tomorrow it's a 10% tariff and the next day it's a 250%. It's really hard to have a crystal ball now. It's always been hard, but it's harder now than it's ever been. I guess on the good side, the mission critical stuff is booming, and the data centers and power generation, and we really are going to have to put a lot of power generation online in this country in the next 10 years. And so I think even as some of the traditional industries go through a little bit of a lull, that those industries are going to pick up, and hopefully when our traditional, our good friends in the chemical business come back, we're going to be ready to go and ready to support them like we always have.
Brandon, I want to get over to the ABC side of your life, which has been for several years, and now you're on the National Board of Directors. What policies or regulatory challenges are most critical to ABC and its members right now?
Right now, Jeremy, we're in a very good regulatory environment. We're seeing things from the EPA, we're seeing things from the DOL. ABC was involved in a court case that overturned some rulings that the NLRB made that were really anti-free enterprise, and so a lot of good things there. The biggest concern right now is the president's been very reluctant to kind of overturn some of President Biden's more pro-union executive orders, and that's a little worrying. And you think about, well, we don't work on government work, and your readers don't work on government work, so Brandon, what's the big deal? And the big deal is we saw that President Biden, through the IRA, really extended some things into private industry that had never been done before, things like prevailing wage and apprenticeships. And so our fear is that we're on a slippery slope to where if the government's going to mandate project labor agreements and mandate union labor on government projects over $35 million, you're just one bad administration away from them trying to force that onto our client owners and forcing them to use these things just like they try to do with IRA.
Gotcha. So talk about a little bit more, Brandon, on what you're talking about. Like, can you speak about ABC's stance on any government-mandated project labor agreements or prevailing wage laws? I mean, what have we seen since really the IRA? This is a big topic, when the IRA was passed. So.
Yeah. So, ABC is a free market, free enterprise association, and so we think that the market should dictate the wage and not the government. There was a time where prevailing wage was very important, and I think, you look at now in the Houston area, we're paying so far and beyond the prevailing wage that, the government doesn't need to be in the business of setting our wages. The government needs to build roads and bridges. And on the project labor agreement, the big problem with a project labor agreement, Jeremy, is in the state of Texas, 97% of construction labor has chosen not to be a part of a labor union. So if we build an Ike Dike with a project labor agreement, we're locking out 97% of the construction workers from working on the Ike Dike, which means we're going to have to bring in labor. And you think about Texas and Louisiana have the biggest labor pool for trained construction workers in the U.S., and we're going to build something like the Ike Dike and have to get workers from California and Illinois to Texas when we've got the best trained workforce in the United States. It just doesn't make sense, and it's patently unfair. We just want a fair and equal opportunity and let the lowest qualified bidder win, whether they sign a PLA or they don't. And that's not to say, there's some benefits to signing a PLA and there's some downsides to it, but the contractor should get to make that decision. The government shouldn't force it on us.
And Brandon, for everyone's edification, the Ike Dike is the coastal spine, the protective barrier that's talking about being built for the Texas Gulf Coast due to all the hurricanes.
That's right. So currently, if that project were to be funded because of the amount of federal dollars in it, it would be required to use a PLA, it would require union labor, which, like I said, would cut out 97% of the Texas construction force.
Brandon, stepping back a little bit, if someone's interested in ABC, or I guess I should ask you this, what are some of the benefits of being part of ABC if you're an industrial contractor?
You know, I get asked this question a lot. First off, the access to workforce training. I mean, what we've got at the Pelican chapter with Dave Helveston, at the Bayou chapter in New Orleans with Jeb Bruno, at the Greater Houston chapter, at the Southeast Texas chapter in Beaumont, the chapter in Freeport, even down in Corpus Christi, you've got the best industrial training for all of your crafts, and honestly, they can do it for cheaper than we can train our own people. And so that's number one. Number two is the regulatory environment. You know, when the Biden administration said you're going to vaccinate your workforce or you're not going to be able to go to work, it was ABC that filed the lawsuit that stopped that and kept us in business during COVID. Right? It's ABC that's filing these lawsuits and challenging these laws to really make it able for us to do business the way we choose to do business. And for us, that's what we look at is, man, we couldn't afford, we're a big company, we couldn't afford the attorneys. And ABC, us all coming together, really defends the industry in ways that we couldn't do it as individual companies. And so for us, that's a big part of why performance is so involved at ABC.
Makes sense, Brandon. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. I got one last question for you. What are you excited about here at ECC? There's a lot of things being covered.
You know, I'm excited about, we've got so many great speakers. Obviously, Mr. Wonderful, we've got Kevin O'Leary, I think is going to be a lot of fun. I don't think Cooper Manning's going to answer any questions about Arch, so I'm not super excited about that. But we just got some great forums. We've got some great panels, and I haven't been on the board for 3 years now on the executive advisory committee. This conference is special because it's by the industry for the industry, and that board of directors, they work their tails off to put this thing on and to bring the content that excites us as industry people. And so, I'm always excited to come to ECC, Jeremy, just to see you.
Me too, and you too, man.
It's a lot of fun.
For folks that don't understand ECC, you come here maybe 2 or 3 years, and you're a part of the community, and it's a first name basis. You know what I mean? And it's a special association and special people. And
it really is.
It's unique and different.
It really is.
Well, Brandon, always great to see you. Thank you for the updates on performance on ABC, and I'm just glad I saw you, my friend. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.